Hi, I'm Rich Moore, the director of Wreck-It Ralph, and I'm really happy to share with you now some deleted scenes from the movie. If you watch with the commentary track turned on, you'll hear part of our thought process as to why we decided to change or ultimately cut these scenes. I hope you enjoy them. Hello, I'm Rich Moore, director of Wreck-It Ralph.
I'm Phil Johnston, one of the writers on the picture.
I'm Jim Reardon, the co-writer and head of story.
And we are looking at some deleted scenes. So just to give this a little context, when we make the movie, we basically do that by remaking the movie over and over again, using very rough storyboard panels and cutting them together into an animatic and marrying those visuals to the soundtrack. And we try lots of different things. You know, we experiment in this stage, and we're really looking for the different relationships, the different story beats, the plot of the movie. So we go down lots of different avenues. So we're going to show you, this is a look into our process. So this is a scene it's the end of Act 1, I believe, and this is after Ralph has made a mess of Hero's Duty.
And at that time, Hero's Duty was it felt much more like a military movie, kind of a comedy, so Ralph ends up in the brig.
Yeah, and it was less like a
game.
Right, it was less like a game, it was more like a sci-fi world.
That was the song.
Yeah, why don't you talk about the song?
It was his little Buck Up Ralphie song that he sang to himself. We had a version of it at the beginning of the movie, and it was this horrible, treacly, silly song where he's feeling sorry for himself and sort of...
Basically his I Want song.
Yeah, and no one would ever let him finish it because his voice was so bad, so they'd throw garbage or something at him, so he never got through the song. And of course, Felix in this game, Ralph came to this game to win a medal, but Felix gets there and shines. You know, it becomes the hero immediately. Much more the natural hero than Ralph.
So obviously, what happened here, like Jim said, that Ralph really screwed up in Hero's Duty, and Felix saved the day once again. And now Ralph has ended up in the brig, and Felix was promoted by General Hologram.
General Lockload.
Oh, his name was Lockload at that point.
Yeah. But he had fallen in love with Calhoun, so this is the introduction of the Honeyglow.
Yeah.
Which remained.
I'm conflicted.
So yeah, this was at a point where the love story with Calhoun, the pieces of it came together much earlier. Like this exists in the movie as it is, but it came much later.
Comes at the end.
It comes at the end. Yeah.
And in this version of it, Felix and Ralph were together for much of the second act, and Ralph was lying to Felix, saying that Calhoun was in love with him too, and so the whole second act was
Based on a
predicated
lie.
on this lie.
Yeah. And now we're gonna meet this new character, Dunderson, who was kind of the ticket to Extreme Easy Living 2.
His name had been Dimwitty at one point. Dimwitty, Dunderson.
Private Dimwitty, Private Bobby Dunderson. This is Skylar Aston doing the voice of Dunderson.
The character eventually became Markowski.
Right,
yeah.
He had a much smaller part in the picture.
Yeah.
That bumps me out hard.
But here he played the slacker. You know, he's kind of represents like the kind of lazy gold brick type of character that you would not see in a video game like Hero's Duty. That he was kind of the Ralph
It'd be
of.
funny if you did.
Yeah, it would be. You know. So he kind of represented these are the two kind of screw ups. You know, kind of meeting.
But he's also a manipulator because he has this goal of getting to Extreme Easy Living 2 and is going to use Ralph to break him out of the jail. So he's manipulating.
Yeah, he's kind
similar
of
to the way King Candy does in this movie.
So this was the pitch of Extreme Easy Living 2, and we saw it as kind of this amoral, combination of The Sims and Grand Theft Auto and just kind of social gaming type places.
And what we were setting up here was this
It's all
Extreme Easy Living 2. It was going to be
It is
the
all
worst
good.
version of where Ralph could end up.
man, looks pretty
So,
They'll love you
he's going to chase the whole second act for a medal, and then when he can't get that, he decides to go to Extreme Easy Living 2. So that's being set up here.
As the movie exists now, I think the story did a good job of setting up a situation back home where we wanted to see Ralph not live in the garbage. We wanted him to have the good things that he was striving for, and the medal became kind of a ticket to that. So it always felt positive.
He's
when
trying to
was
get something
pursuing
here. He's just basically trying to quit and drop out.
Yeah.
Hang on, Dunderson. Why are you doing this for me?
Because you're my bro, my amigo. You're my bro amigo.
Has John C. Reilly heard your guys' version of
He
Ralph?
has now.
So, John, if you're at home, pop the DVD in.
You don't sound like that.
I don't know, man.
Beautiful
I'm already in a lot of trouble around here.
Dulcet.
The dulcet tones.
you, Fix It. For long, we'll be renaming
So this is the big escape at the end of Act 1, and as we can see, Dunderson has kind of used Ralph just to get him out, and now Ralph is going to be on his own.
And it's similar then to the drive. I mean, he
Right.
escapes, steals a spaceship, crashes through
into
Central and
Sugar
all that.
Rush.
Yeah.
Well, this is a sequence from, I think, the second set of reels. And most of the second act was Ralph and Vanellope and Felix all together on a search through Sugar Rush to make the components of her cart. So they had to play various mini games to get all the things they needed to build the car. We later decided to compress it into one shorter sequence.
Yeah.
But you do get to have the benefit of having some extra Alan Tudyk magic here.
The voice of King Candy.
Candy, and
Doing his
he
best
would always
admin.
show, King Candy would always show up as kind of the master of ceremonies as each one of these mini games. Always, again, trying to keep Vanellope out of the game. This is the first time that anyone was ever helping her.
And at this point, we didn't have the turbo reveal for King Candy. He was much more upfront about not liking Ralph, not
Yeah.
wanting Vanellope to succeed. He didn't have the facade of geniality.
He was a bad guy, but he in this version he was going to be redeemed at the end of the
Right,
movie,
yes,
whereas
right.
now that character doesn't exist.
Yeah. So this was Tom Ellery who did the
a lot of King
storyboard,
Candy.
and Tom was instrumental in story and kind of finding the character of King Candy and just kind of the antics and the
And just a
style
lot of the jokes.
Yeah, this is actually pretty funny.
This has skills.
Yeah.
Oh right.
So the idea being that King Candy is trying to thwart them from making the cart, because even at that point he had a dark secret that he had usurped the throne. So he was trying to do anything he could to stop them from letting Vanellope get a go-kart.
So we were using a lot of Ralph's sort of hammer hands to
Get out of problems.
Yeah, knocking his way out of the jail, knocking through this.
Well, and it was a way of saying, like, this is how someone is able to help Vanellope for the first time put together this cart. That she's got this strong friend that can help her succeed in these games, where she always failed before. So this next scene was our trio that we spoke about. Like, as we said, Ralph, Vanellope, and Felix were traveling together through Sugar Rush.
Which was called Candy Hollow still.
Candy Hollow, yeah, back then.
That was Lauren McMullen that came up with the name
The
Sugar
name
Rush.
Sugar Rush, yeah. And so this I remember being the sequence that really told us, like, we had our characters.
Yeah, I love
that I
this
really.
one. I miss this one a lot.
I mean, this, if anything, it really made it clear in my mind that these were characters that were kind of worth watching. That they had a lot of dimension to them. That they played well off of one another. Ultimately, it didn't make it in the movie, but it was a huge, milestone for the story of knowing like, okay, I like where these guys are going.
So you get to see a chance of Vanellope and Felix interacting, which they really don't as it stands in the
Yeah.
movie now. So, and then this is Sarah did the record for this early version.
And
So were you still setting up the fact that they're in a volcano that'll go off at the end of the movie, but at
It's
this
different.
point it wasn't Mentos
wasn't-
and Diet Coke. It was,
no.
And here's one other joke that lasted from the earliest screening.
I bundle these wrappers up and
And this
cover
is
myself
Josie
up like a
Trinidad,
little
who did
baby.
the storyboards here. And Josie's an amazing story artist. And I think we all credit her with really kind of helping find these characters. In this
got a lot of the
sequence.
heart of
Yeah.
Vanellope, I think.
Yeah, where they weren't just kind of telling jokes. You really kind of got where they were coming from and who they were. Each one kind of had their point of view. And this, I guess, is kind of the early ancestor of, you know, the scene in the volcano where Ralph kind of for the first time starts to kind of empathize with Vanellope.
And I love that what's being said is so crass and awful, but it's said in this very sweet way by these two misfits who are really relating to each other.
Yeah.
And
Well,
ganging up a little bit on
And
Felix.
Felix being outraged by their
Yeah.
nonconformism, for lack of a better
Or revolting. Like,
And even then, you can still see that Ralph is not quite a human being. He's
Right.
sort of,
He was kind of a monster. He
We
was like
didn't
this
know
thing.
what he was
Yeah.
going to be exactly.
And this was the big find, you know, just that little beat right there of Ralph and Vanellope kind of
That
bonding.
one smile.
That one
Oh,
smile, we knew like, oh, these guys work good together. You know, this
Even
is
though they're bickering like
Yeah.
you know,
like
brother and
siblings.
sister,
Yeah.
they belong together. They're going to help each other.
Good night, Felix.
So what we're going to see now is my favorite thing that didn't make it in the movie. This world called Extreme Easy Living 2. So first there was Easy Living, then Extreme Easy Living, then Extreme Easy Living 2. More extreme, more easy. And this was sort of a Grand Theft Auto meets The Sims.
It's real.
Just a
Social
terrible,
gaming type place.
terrible
Yeah.
place devoid of any morality
It's
or
all good.
ethics.
And this came at a point in the movie towards the end of Act 2, start of Act 3, where Ralph has basically run away from Vanellope. He's failed her,
Yeah.
and he just wants to escape. So
He's taken the easy way out.
Yes.
Yeah. He didn't want to go home. This place represented where there was, I think Dunderson set it up as there's no good guys, no bad guys, just guys.
Just
you know,
guys.
just guys. And you know,
And so you don't have to do anything in order to get medals or get attention or affection. You just have to be.
or
And-
just people they were called like-its.
Yeah.
I think you collect like-its, you know, and you would never find a game like this in
Yeah, and that's one reason we decided to drop it ultimately.
and then I think maybe there was a version where it was on a laptop in Litwack's office, you know, that Ralph actually flew through the internet, I think, to
Right.
had one
or through
version,
like Wi-Fi to get to it. So it was so complicated.
Yeah, and
you know.
it made the movie very long.
Yeah.
And structurally, we had to bring in a fourth world at that late date.
and introduce this new kind of magic to
And
get
all
there.
the rules.
Which
And
is one of the hard things about this movie in general is establishing rules and logic for all these different places.
Well, and as you could see, there was a Dunderson gave him a cheat code, I think,
Right,
you know,
right.
that got him onto the internet, you know, and it was so much, you know. So this was, so these two sequences are they were split up. This is when Ralph kind of realizes that it's not all cracked up to be, you know, what he thought it was going to be. So that
A world
he's
without
starting to miss
consequences.
Vanellope. This is the moment where he's kind of having this epiphany, you know, this realization that he left behind a good friend, and at
And
this
she
point,
had given him a little homemade medal like
that
she
point, it
does
was
in the
made
out of-
movie that melts in the hot tub. And that's his realization that he's done the wrong thing by going here.
We ultimately, one of the reasons we cut it was because he barely gets there, and then he has regrets and
Leaves,
leaves.
yeah.
And, it just
And
didn't,
really
it didn't feel
As you
honest.
can see, the motivation isn't exactly clear. You know, this was when we were trying to just kind of figure out,
Explore the worlds.
explore the worlds, and just kind of what are the beats in getting there, and how would it kind of play. But as you can see, even in this early version, sometimes we, strike out into the wild with not all the components, there.